Jazz, one of the things that has been really interesting the last little while, it has been a little bit of change of focus by the federal finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, who all of a sudden has sounded really alarmed at the economic picture, whereas before she wasn't. Is she trying to pave the way because she knows a recession is coming, or what do you think is behind that?
The finance minister would have people believe that she had an epiphany. She woke up and all of a sudden she's going to start thinking about Canada's fiscal position. But their track record said otherwise. The amount of borrowing that they've done, that $500 billion of borrowing that they did over the pandemic, which again, $200 billion went to non-COVID related places. The same government that paid $54 million for a useless app that they don't even know where that money came from or where it went to when they were paying people. The same app that was supposed to cost $80,000 and someone could build over a weekend. This is the kind of reckless spending that has Canada to where it is today. How can someone believe that the same government that has put us in this position is now suddenly starting to think about it? This is like saying that the arsonist will put out the fire that they created in the first place.
Yeah, and again, we had another rate hike today. The Bank of Canada rate went up by 0.5 point. So again, what's your reaction to that, and what does that tell about the future of the economy?
Well, it goes to show again that the Bank of Canada's interest rates are a reaction to something. But what is that reaction to? It's a reaction to just inflation. And the Bank of Canada's rate has increased, I believe, in the last 6 months from 0.25 all the way up to 3.75 today. And this is only because it's a reactionary a thing to the debt that Canada has. They are reacting to something, and that something again is just inflation. And it's easy for Justin Trudeau to blame others for this and say it's a global phenomenon that he keeps continually saying. But this is all in his hands. He's caused Canadians to be put in the position they are today. There are many that we probably haven't seen that will be missing their mortgage payments, and we may not fully see the reaction to this interest rate hike for another year, the real consequences of it. And the Bank of Canada was very clear today that this is a rate increase of 50 base points that will most likely see more in December at the minimum. And this is just to show that if Justin Trudeau has said it that he does not think about monetary policy, he needs to rein in his spending, because then that will help decrease the Bank of Canada's interest rates. You mentioned that maybe the finance minister had an epiphany. I don't think anything that they've done since Pierre Poilievre has taken over has been an epiphany at all. I think it's been peer pressure that since he's taken over, they've all of a sudden pretended that they've seen the light. They've seen the Conservative leaders' new light, that they're going to fix the problems that they created. But I will tell you, no one believes them.
Yeah, and we've got just about a minute and a half before the next break, Jazz. But we've talked about the impact of these rate hikes, the Bank of Canada rate, and you just talked about inflation as well. What are you hearing from your constituents about the cost of living crisis and how it affects them?
Well, it's important to understand that even before COVID, as soon as we saw this as soon as when I was elected in 2019, I came from the construction industry. And what we were seeing was, because of all the canceled projects by this, ideologue Liberal government, I was seeing many of the tradespeople that I was dealing with having to lay off their entire workforce and having to go back and work in the field themselves again, because they just could not afford to hire people or keep costs low if they didn't go back onto the field themselves. This has been a problem even before COVID. And my constituents were already emailing me and getting in touch with me, telling me how the carbon tax was already too high for them. I remember going to a door of a single Lebanese mom who had a for sale sign on her lawn. And she said, while I was door knocking in that election, "What is this carbon tax? What did I do wrong in the last however many years that I wasn't doing before that, where I'm being punished by this thing called a carbon tax? I'm not using any more heat than I was before." So this Liberal government was already attacking not just my constituents, but Canadians with this carbon tax that did not help solve any problems. It didn't reduce the emissions that they said it would.